Welcome. My name is Daniel Roehr. I'm an associate professor in landscape architecture at UBC in the landscape architecture department. And my vertical studio this year is called Housing Disaster Housing, Affordable Housing in Vancouver after COVID-19. Before I start, I would like to quote Cornelia Hahn Oberlander, one of the most prominent Canadian landscape architects who recently passed away with nearly 100 years, just one month short, in her 99th birthday. And she describes landscape architecture as an art and science of the possible. The art is to analyze the site, and the science is the research that you have to do in order to make your ideas work. I think that's a good start to talk about the following questions my studio is going to raise. What role does affordable housing have today during and after this pandemic in Vancouver? How will the pandemic alter opinions on affordable housing and access to local gardens and parks? And how can planners and designers help to provide more affordable housing and gardens and green spaces in cities, and specifically in Vancouver, to help to mitigate the effects of the COVID crisis and future crises? Last year, my vertical studio was based on a journal article called Gardens Are Buildings, a garden's role in unprecedented time. And I gave matrices as a tool to come up with the ideas and design questions. And they were also ranked, so of their priority. And this year, the task is very different. You have to develop your own affordable housing design matrices to support your analytical design thinking. So you have to create your own matrices. And this year, I think that's really important. The vertical studio theme is based on an article I wrote for Spacing Vancouver, an online journal here in Vancouver. And it basically says that we as designers and planners, this is an opportunity for us to shine and really bring to the table what we can do and help to support affordable housing and future housing in Vancouver and anywhere else. But first, think locally, and then think nationally and globally. It's really important to look at the site and understand the site to do this project. And it also takes the theme from last year, where I say gardens are buildings, and turns it around and says, can buildings be gardens? So metaphorically speaking, can there be special spaces like paradise? Can there be spaces where one wants to be? The studio format is in 3 phases. First half of the studio is individual, to design alone. So I understand the capabilities of the student and help them. And then there's small groups and larger groups in the second and third phase, where we look at the different scales, first at the building scale, then we look at the block scale, the city block scale, and then the city scale. Of the city, beautiful Vancouver, situated on the Pacific Rim, one of the most pristine locations in the world, an admirable place to live. It is really important to reiterate this, that the first weeks are done alone, and then the second part of the studio is done in small teams and large teams. This is important because particularly for third-year students, this is important, as I'm raising here in the studio setup. Normal studio setup, you start at the large scale and work your way down to the detail scale. This studio reverses the order and starts at the small scale, because that's something everybody can understand and it resonates. That means the building is a scale everybody can work easily at, and the adjacent garden and public open space. And then we enlarge and go to the city scale, and then we go largely to the city scale, but first we go to the block scale and then to the city scale. So I think it's important to see it at that in this point of view. Finally, I would like to say, I'm doing this studio because this is at UBC. This is a route I take every day from Carrest Hill by bike. And every day I see this person there sleeping outside. And I was getting so much frustrated that I thought I had to do something about it. And I thought this would be a really good initiation and inspiration for the students to think about. We're in one of the richest places on earth, one of the richest countries in the world, and we have people sleeping outside. And I think one of the most important duties of architects and landscape architects is to give back dignity. Everybody should have a roof over his head or her head. So this the idea behind this, why I would like to do this studio. Thank you very much.